Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the XBE Thrive series, sponsored by the Diversity Consortium. Today, we're going to talk about the business strategies to survive COVID. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. You're going to notice up at the top or somewhere on your screen, there's a chat feature. We're actually going to ask some questions, and if at any time during this presentation you do have any questions, please feel free to use that chat feature. We've got a staff member monitoring that, and we'll be able to relate some answers, and we'll be able to understand. All right. I'm getting a feedback. All right, so my apologies for the technical difficulties. Looks like we got a little bit of an echo problem happening, but nonetheless, we're going to get started. So the Diversity Consortium's mission is to make a measurable difference in the supplier diversity landscape. So we do that by providing services to both corporations and to what we call XBE businesses. And those XBE businesses are businesses of all nature that are diverse, disadvantaged for any manner, shape, or form. We are powered by 25 of our service partners. So Adam, is there a way you can turn that off?
Everybody's muted, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. Rob, go ahead and unmute yourself now. I muted you to see if it'll stop.
All right. Should we start again?
Start where you want. I don't think that we were hearing it on the other end.
All right. It looks like I did unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right. And I see one attendee. And for the attendee that's listening, my apologies for these technical delays. We're going to go ahead and start this all over again. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the XBE Thrive series, sponsored by. I'm getting this echo, Adam, and this is not good. Why am I getting myself back on the screen? I don't understand.
If you're just talking about audio feedback,
Adam, I keep hearing myself talk to me 10 seconds later.
I understand. And that do you have another window open with Teams?
No, I don't believe so.
If you can, go ahead and exit the live event and come right back in.
All right. I may have had. All right. So it looked like I was the attendee. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that should solve the problem. I can hear you just fine.
All right. So it was my own doing. All right. And are you seeing any attendees?
It doesn't tell me till the report afterwards.
Okay. So
it's not always accurate.
So my apologies, folks. We've had some pretty significant technical difficulties, and that's my apologies. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the XBE Thrive series powered by the Diversity Consortium. Today, we're going to talk about business strategies to survive COVID. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You'll notice that there's a chat feature somewhere on your screen. Please feel free to use that to either answer questions as we ask them, or if you have any questions during the presentation at all, please feel free to jump in. Our staff team will be able to answer those questions for you and make sure that you get responses, especially at the end when we are going to ask some questions. If you don't get your question answered, please feel free to, if you just registered, you have registered and you put in your question, we'll make sure that you get an answer back. Lastly, before we move on, I just want to share with you all that we do use the term XBE quite a bit, and that refers to women, minority, LGBTQ, veteran, disabled, and small business owned enterprises. We use the XBE to represent all disadvantaged and diverse businesses. The Diversity Consortium's mission is to make a measurable difference in the supplier diversity landscape, and we do that through offering services both to the corporations and to the XBEs directly. We are a group of 25 service partners, and these are just a handful of the partners that are helping provide some solutions to some of the things you're going to see today. So with that, let's get on going with the business strategies to survive COVID. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today Mr. Randall Dobbins. Hello, Randall.
Hello there, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. How about yourself?
I'm so wonderful I can't stand myself.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you for joining us, Randall. And today, well, before we get going, tell us a little bit about Diversity Works and what it is that you do.
Diversity Works has been around for over 17 years. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas. We actually provide education and training to XBEs to make a meaningful difference in the Fortune 500 supply chain. So for the folks that say, you know, this is their market, they want to know what it takes to get it done, and they want to be successful at it so they can build a business that they thought they were building, then we are here to support them.
Outstanding. So why don't we get started with a question? What would make the most impact helping your business survive COVID? So if you can go ahead and use that chat feature that you see and go ahead and submit your responses, and we'll give you just a couple seconds. And then I'm going to ask Adam, who's helping us run the program here, if he could give us some of the answers that you're seeing. All right, Adam, what are you seeing?
I've got a couple in. The first one is providing healthcare to my employees and myself. We've got another one, $1 million grant.
Me too.
I'll take that.
Another corporate contract. Capable workers seeking employment, and a stable new normal.
Outstanding. Well, hopefully we're going to address some of those concerns today. Randall, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're going to cover?
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. What we're going to talk about right now, especially during this, what seems to be an unending challenge, is the issues that are facing you all as you've shared with us from the community. And Rob, if you don't mind going back, the impact that COVID has had on XBE specifically. And we're not mental health experts. We're not doctors. We're not dispensing medical advice. But what we can tell you is from the interaction that we've had with business owners right now, that this mental health issue really and truly is something that we all need to be aware of. We all have gone through quite a bit. So we're going to talk about that. And trying to figure out how to work our way through it. One of the things we looked at, although this has not been a crisis for everyone, for a number of XBEs, this has been a crisis, and we're going to talk about some strategies that you can use to move forward from that, as well as some actual business strategies to help you navigate into either exiting the pandemic or the new normal, wherever we land.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to hear more. So why don't you tell me about some of the issues that we're facing today?
Well, sure thing, Rob. And it's a great question. And I want to start off with a poll that was conducted by the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, between October and November of 2020. And turns out a lot of what we saw in 2020 was the same in 2021. And basically, they said the small businesses anticipate the worst of the pandemic is still ahead, and 50% of small businesses see their operations continuing for a year or less in the current business climate before having to permanently close. Now, if for those of you that are familiar, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is a pretty broad swath of companies. If you actually then further dig into this and you look at what we're seeing from the Women Business Enterprise Networking Council and the National Minority Supplier Development Council, who represent two of the different XBE types out there, they said that amongst our groups, it's even worse. It's even more dismal. A lot of the businesses that we started just weren't geared to deal with not having customers in person. As you see the issues facing XBEs, we didn't have the cash flow to survive something that went on this long. We do have concerns about the long-term viability of the business. Will we be able to stay in business long enough for, in general, let alone to withstand the short-term hit? And then our local economies, a lot of our businesses are based on foot traffic and local spend, not so much national spend or regional spend or e-commerce. And then, of course, we've got the impact of what has it been just to us as the business owners. All right. And then that's just running the business itself. But then you start looking at the issue that we're coming across right now with what's called the Great Resignation, which was at the end of last year, 3 to 5 million people just decided they were not going to return to the labor market. And that's had an impact on our businesses as XBEs. And yes, I'm an XBE. I'm a minority business enterprise. And so we all on this call have had to deal with what does it mean from working from home, because now that we know that works, what does that mean for us as a challenge? And then being able to get and retain people, and then making sure we have people that are in the right frame of mind to provide best customer service, to engage with fellow employees, and to fully be present. And then, of course, definitionally with the pandemic, what kind of healthcare issues are we addressing? And the one that we deal with every day, of course, cash flow. These have all been issues we've tried to make our manage as we work our way through the pandemic.
Absolutely. And, I've seen the numbers and they are staggering.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this chart right here, when you look at it from the National Center of Biotechnology Information under the U.S. National Laboratory of Medicine, and it's a strange place to be tracking this data for sure, but we tend to trust it nonetheless. You see that there's 3.3 million active business owners, or 22% from February to April. And you see a huge drop off, the largest in record in the United States. And that's just an astounding number. I mean, if you consider that in the US alone, we can get anywhere from 1 to 2 million businesses started per year. A lot of these are people that are just filing for a new business status, getting a tax ID number, doing something small or whatnot. We typically don't see 3.3 million loss. That's just an astounding number in general in any given year.
No doubt. And you've mentioned mental health care too. And I think that's, I'm glad you're talking about it, because that's something that's really important. So what's happening now? What are you seeing?
Well, let's that's a great question, Rob, and I want everyone to know, and I want to repeat this again. We are not mental health experts, and we're not dispensing medical advice. But when you look at this information here from the CDC, it says that in their prevention survey, 40.9% of the 5,470 respondents reported an adverse mental or behavioral health condition, such as anxiety, depression, or increased substance use, which includes alcohol. I'm not quite sure if it includes legal marijuana or not, but because at the federal level, I don't know if they recognize it. But the July research from the Kaiser Family Foundation underscored these findings, with 53% of respondents reported that worrying about COVID-19 is harming their mental health. And let's take a look at these for a second, because it says anxiety, depression, or increased substance abuse. Well, for those of us that are business owners, we can be anxious about the next month, the next quarter. We can be anxious about our pipelines. We can be anxious about whether our operating procedures are surpassing the expectations of an audit. We can be depressed by not getting a contract or having to fire someone or losing a big customer. These are things we deal with regularly. Now, throw life and death situations like a pandemic on top of this. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some strategies to help?
Well, interestingly enough, we did do some research on this, and I believe our source for this one was a doctor from a company called MEMD, and we thought he gave some pretty good Voss, his name is Voss, I think. He gave us some pretty good tips on this one. He said, first and foremost, you know, a lot of us may have come from a generation where you just didn't talk about this kind of thing. Well, we need to change that. We need to set the tone and talk about mental health openly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I will share with you just anecdotally that I can tell you within the last 2 or 3 weeks, between some of my clients and between some of friends and family members, people have actually openly been sharing with me that they've been finding it struggle. I mean, they've been finding it difficult. They've been struggling to stay focused, to stay optimistic, to do a whole host of things. And people are now self-aware and willing to admit that they know that something's not quite right. And in my mind, that's the start of the conversation. And so we got to make it comfortable for people to say that. And my personal recommendation on this, let's not be so quick to tell folks, oh, hey, you're going to be okay. Because, you know, we always want to be supportive. We always want to be encouraging. But maybe we want to tell people, hey, well, you want to talk about it. And then we listen, and then we, you know, encourage them to get professional help. We definitely, as business owners, want to make sure we improve access to their benefits package. A number of those packages have EAPs, employee action plans, where they can actually call into a hotline or something. We as business owners can make sure that our benefits packages take care of the families. We can train our leaders that these are conversations that we actually need to have. We don't need to dismiss it. We don't need to start telling people everything is going to be fine. We need to create employee resource groups where, you know, there's different things that folks can do to you know, reestablish connection. The isolation has been hard on a lot of us. And the good news is we're learning how to work virtually. The bad news is we're isolated, especially if you have employees that are introverted naturally, or for whatever reason, they haven't been as active getting out the house. They may not have had family members, or their family members all retreated into their own rooms. You know, the kids are in their room with virtual learning, the spouse is in their room working for the company, you're in your office, and, you know, people didn't get together. And then before you know it, you put 20 hours in and you're going to bed. All right. And think about offering mental health days. Just and just tell folks, you know, I don't want you to see you online. Do not check your phone. Do not check email. All right. When I see you taking a mental health day, do something. So those are some of the suggestions that came through on that.
That's some great suggestions. Thank you. So tell me about crisis management. And are we really in a crisis?
For a number of XBEs, and it's kind of interesting, there were two groups of thought when we were looking at crisis management strategies. This information is sourced from a number of different places. One source is the Hartford, the insurance company, has a smart advisory newsletter where they talk about this. And we had another source that came from Forbes, as they talked about this, about some of the best practices in crisis management. And I do want to put this in context. All right. When they were talking about this, the crisis is definitionally when you've gotten to a point where your normal course of business is not working for you any longer. And specifically, it is you're not paying your receivables the way you want to. you're not paying your bills the way you expect. You've exceeded your available cash flow, because we all have set up cash flow to withstand a storm. Okay. We all have, we want to pay our vendors on time because we know we get preferential treatment when we pay on time. We have done quite a bit of work to see what we can do to establish credit lines and all these other kinds of things. So when we're talking crisis, we're talking about what happens when your normal good solid business practices aren't serving you right now. Additionally, if you've been running on a shoestring waiting to get to that next level where sound business practices carry the day so that you can weather these kinds of storms, and you find yourself in a crisis, these are the kinds of things you can do. So on the left-hand side, we're talking about the things that you want to make sure that you kind of avoid doing, which is, do not make excuses, blaming the pandemic, blaming whatever, blaming customers that are extending you further and not paying you. Avoid the excuses, because that's not going to help you get out of this. That's potentially going to help you spiral even deeper into the mental health issue. Be careful about overreacting, because this is business. These things happen. So overreacting probably isn't going to give you the clarity of thought and purpose that you're going to need. Do not ignore your processes. Oftentimes things like this come in, we throw everything that we know that's working out the window. We ignore our processes. We work outside of our processes, and now we're introducing new issues into our business. Don't hide from this thinking that, oh my goodness, it may go away. And when things happen in the business, don't assume that apology is just going to make everything go away. Oftentimes, the most effective apologies include, okay, what are we going to do differently? What are we going to do to make sure this does not occur again? So don't just settle for the apologies. Let's dig deeper and figure out what needs to happen so that we don't find ourselves in this situation again. And don't focus on mistakes, because that gets us back to overreacting. That gets us back into the blame process. Yes, the mistake happened. Now, how can we recover? All right. And then once again, your crisis management plan. Look at your alternate sources of financing, whether an SBA loan is possible, whether there's state funding, whether there's city funding, because a lot of local governments are flush with cash to help business owners precisely for this moment. Whoever said you needed a grant, you needed $1 million grant, now might be the time to apply for that grant. And, unfortunately, you may not be awarded it tomorrow, but depending on what goes on, it may come just in the nick of time. So if you apply now, then, hey, you may have planted the seeds for some rain making. All right. Do a financial review with your accountant. Go through your books, look and see whether there are opportunities to streamline. If you've had any kind of offset in revenue, or if you've had offset in anything else, then you might need to right size some of your monthly obligations. For example, you may be paying for a gigabyte of internet service, but if you're not in the office, then maybe you don't need a gigabyte of service. You might need 300 megabytes of service. That one's probably not the best example, but you kind of get the idea where you might be able to curb some of your expenses because you're just not using, you don't have full utilization, and then you ramp back up as the business ramps back up. Talk with your bankers. Bankers typically have a lot of options available to them. A number of them had federal dollars, a number of them had specialty programs, a number of them might be able to put you on the equivalent of, for anybody that has jumbo loans on these mortgages, they may be able to put you on interest-only payments, short-term instead of interest and principal if you have a relationship with them. It may be that you walked into this situation with pretty good business credit and may be able to offer you a new product like a working capital loan or line of credit or something to kind of help you work through. They may be able to play with the interest rates for you. So talk with your banker. They may have a number of different options available to you, in addition to some folks they may be able to refer you to, depending on what your situation is. Uh, Talking with your big suppliers and your big customers. Your big suppliers may be able to give you some extended payment terms, um, because they may be better well positioned to absorb the shock, and they see that if you're moving their product, the issue is they may not need their money ASAP as long as they know they're going to get it. And then some of your bigger customers, they may be in a position to actually pay sooner if you give them an early payment discount, or they may actually have some projects that they've been waiting on, that they can actually issue now. And then, of course, by all means, educate your team members with what's going on, because you don't need to isolate yourself, because the worst thing we do as business owners is go off in the corner and into our bunkers or our caves and try and think this up on our own. We definitely need to make sure that we have surrounded ourselves with people that we trust, people that we can talk with, get other people's experience, get different ideas. So if we've got our own advisory board, if we've got coaches, if we've got friends, if we've got colleagues, if we have accountability partners, we can do that, and we can kind of create a similar structure for team members. And then, of course, make the most of any downtime you have. All right. This actually is an opportunity for you to really and truly think through what are some of the long-term issues for the business. There's an old saying, out of chaos comes order. And once you stop overreacting, and once you stop focusing on the mistakes, and once you stop ignoring the processes, you might actually be able to see opportunities that you didn't otherwise see. So in focusing on the downtime, you have an opportunity to do some things for yourself and for the business. And if you have any wherewithal, this may actually be a good time for you to invest in the direction of the business, whether it's professional development for you and your leadership team, or other kinds of things, because we are going into something new right now. Coming out on the other side, there have been a tremendous number of shifts, and there's going to be some great opportunities for companies that are open to figuring out what they are.
Oh, that's some great advice, Randall. Thank you so much. And so to summarize, tell me about the business strategies that you're seeing beneficial to help an XBE survive.
Absolutely. And great question, Rob. Some of the ones we're seeing is you by all means want to take advantage of funding opportunities. I mentioned grants, I mentioned other kinds of things. Take advantage of those. Now actually is a great time to get your certification under the various different certification types. There's depending on your company, there's, I believe, 14 or more different types of certifications you can get. And it's a great time for you to look at that as a differentiation strategy. Yes, I know a number of us don't want to be recognized as an XBE, but as a good friend of Rob's and mine like to say, that's really in this business, she goes, getting certified is not going to get you an extra dollar of business, but getting certified will help you to get that secret side door that gets you into the Fortune 1000, so that you have an opportunity to show why your product is a better choice than your competitors. And it's like, I'll take that all day long. All right. Leveraging resources. My goodness, I talked a moment ago about not feeling like you're in the boat by yourself. This is one of those things where I've seen this so many times, where things begin to get difficult and folks like a turtle pull their head in. This is one of those things where you start leveraging resources. You put your head out, you look around, you see what's going on, you pick up the phone, you brand more, you give more people knowledge and awareness that you're out there and you're ready to help. Leverage your resources. This is not the time to step back. This is the time to step out. Okay. Make it known that you are a minority business. This is not one of those things where in the government where you're looking for a set aside or anything else. This is a fantastic time to be an XBE, to be a minority business, to be a woman-owned business, to be a LGBTQ or veteran business. We've gotten to the point right now where folks actually are looking to support you because of that. Now, I know for some of you that may be a little off-putting, but the issue is and I take this to heart. If somebody wants to do business with me because they think that I have an affinity with them, then I am going to give them the same level of outstanding service that I would any customer. And once I demonstrate the value, once they start seeing that I'm an indispensable part of the growth of their business, I hope to have them for a long-term customer. And it's one of those things, how they came to find me. If saying that I'm an XBE allowed them to find me, then that was just me being a good marketer, because I gave customers a number of different paths to find me. All right. And in this business, those of you listening, you have to know at this point, it's about what are you doing to make sure people know that you are there to provide an outstanding service. Consider number 5, introducing new services. A number of us will have to reset our business because, I'll give you the perfect example. A number of the Fortune 500 have not been fully staffed in their corporate offices. If you are providing services to the home office physically in that building, then the need for your services may have declined over the last 18 months. So you now may have to reinvent yourself, figure out what a new service might look like, what you can be offering to some of your existing customers. If you are seeing that you were successfully able to have a digital business and have an e-commerce component to your business, what other things are your customers interested in that you may not be offering right now? And clearly, number 6, network with other XBEs. Together, we're stronger. It's just that simple. Make sure, because most of us have more appetite than we can actually handle. And so if you're networked, then with other XBEs, you have amazing opportunities to look at potential combinations and collaborations where everybody wins.
Those are some great points, Randall. Thank you so much. So why don't we take a few questions from the audience? So if you remember, you've got that toolbar somewhere on your screen. It looks like that chat window that you see on mine. If you go ahead and click that button and type in a question you've got, and remember, we're going to take a few questions and we'll ask Randall these questions live. But if you don't get your question answered, don't worry. We are going to get back to you with a response for everybody for all of the questions. So Adam, could you read us a couple of the questions, please?
Yeah, the first question, I've tried all of the traditional places for funding and have been told no. What suggestions do you have for my business?
Good question. Randall.
As I mentioned, you do have the issues where talking to your bank or talking to the SBA may have been a problem. And I'm not going to recommend you talk to Guido. All right. And no disrespect to any of the Guidos that are on the line here. All right. But, you want to be careful about loan sharking and so forth and so on. But as a practical matter for us XBEs, you definitely want to look at the Business Consortium Fund through the National Minority Supplier Development Council. This isn't a sales pitch, but you may have seen recently that the Diversity Consortium announced $2 billion of funding available to XBEs, and Rob can talk a little bit more about that, but that includes balance sheet financing, it includes factoring, it includes a whole host of different types of financing specifically suited to the needs of XBEs. You additionally, for those of you in the real estate industry, you know about this concept, something that's called hard money lending, where like balance sheet financing, where hard assets are actually pledged. But I mean, if it costs you a little bit of more money, it's short term, but it can solve a short term business need. If you're in that position, that's a potential option for you. But once again, this may be one of those things where we talk to your banker, ask them, do they know of people that do alternative financing? And they may be able to point you into some directions for some different options. Rob, you got some thoughts there?
I do, and thank you for bringing up those options as well. The Diversity Consortium partners, and that's the way that we help provide our services, is through these partners. It costs you nothing to come to us and ask, what we can do to help, and then you get to decide what you want to do from there. And I can tell you this: we have already pre-negotiated rates with many financial institutions and lenders, banks and investors. So just give us a call, and we'd be happy to help. So without this being too salesy, Adam, what's our next question?
Sure. Next question is, some of my employees are refusing to come back to work, and some of them are being hired away for either salaries I can't match or benefits I don't have. What can you do to help?
Yeah, that's a great question, and welcome to the club on that. I think a number of us, I know I'm having this issue as well. I can tell you right now, one of the things that I'm looking at is HR was never something that I really wanted to do. I accepted it was something I had to do to get my business going. And my goodness, I don't want to go into Indeed and see 1,000 resumes. I mean, you want to talk about putting me out of my misery. It's like, my goodness, if I have to go through that, I'm just done. It's like, can I hire somebody to make this go away? So I'm actually looking at shared services models and other types of things of people who do this for a living. All right, because there are companies out there that do these kinds of things for a living. But the broader question, and Rob, I'll also defer to you on this because I know you're dealing with this in real time as well, is this is really an issue when I haven't had the opportunity to revisit my pricing with my customers. And now that we actually are in an inflation scenario, something that a number of us, having started our business, haven't seen, because we really hadn't had real inflation in over 20 some odd years. Now it's here, it's real. It looks like it may be with us for some extended period of time. So we have to develop a muscle on how we actually go back and do inflation-based rate increases with our customers, which then puts us in the position of being able to afford counter offers for our employees, put sign-on bonuses if we have to do that, and other kinds of things. Otherwise, what we're left with is rethinking the business and looking at either fractional employee basis, and in this case, I don't want to talk about 1099s and virtual help. I want to talk about people with the actual skill sets we need, but not necessarily bringing them in full time. If you're talking about people that need to be in the building, then you may actually have to go with people who don't have as much experience. But you may have to do what I like to call the McDonald's model, where, McDonald's doesn't represent that they hire the best and the brightest. And that's not a knock on McDonald's, because I want you to think about what they're really saying. What they're saying is their operating manual is so tight that they can bring people in with no experience and get them to be highly productive in their operation for whatever period of time. Their cost to bring a new person in is not cost prohibitive, and it allows them to have a lower skilled, lower priced workforce because the division of effort is such that they know what they need to pay higher money for that skill set, which then for your business means that you might not be able to solve all of these issues, but you might be able to rethink the business in that if there's a portion of it where you can take lower priced, lower experienced people, bring them, then knowing they may not be with you for 5, 10, or 15 years, but you're okay with that, your business will operate that way. And if you know that you can treat that next group in a way that stabilizes your operation, that may be another model for you. And the book you want to look at to really and truly give you a full appreciation of that is Michael Gerber's, Rob, do you remember Gerber's book name is the famous one?
Oh, yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Let me see. I had to put my glasses on right now. Let me get the name of his book, but you can go ahead and comment, Rob, if you like, and before we get to the
Absolutely.
next
So
question.
you did touch on shared services. That's one great way. There's also some direct primary care healthcare that you can offer your employees. It's a program that the Diversity Consortium is just starting out now. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, also please feel free to reach out. But this is a way that you can offer benefits as a small business at rates as low as $100 a month per employee or $150 a month per employee with family, which I got to tell you is music to my ears, having just done the open enrollment, and I know the numbers, and it's not that. So this is a great opportunity. I think we've got time for just one more question. Adam, if you can give us one more, and again, if we didn't answer your question, we are going to send out responses to everybody. So, Adam?
Oh, and Rob, before Adam speak, Michael Gerber's book is The E Myth, the
Got
entrepreneur's myth, the E Myth.
got it.
Sorry about that, Adam.
No problem. So one more question. How would you suggest improving the mental health of my team?
Great question. We talked quite a bit about that. Once again, I'm going to restate that you got to make it a safe place for folks to even acknowledge that they're struggling. Some people don't want to acknowledge that they're struggling. I know when I was struggling about 6 or 7 months ago, I didn't want to acknowledge it. I had to have a conversation with my family. I said, "Okay, people, I'm not doing well." We were actually having a family gathering. We were blessed to be in a situation where we could be together. And I said, I don't want to make any decisions. I don't want to have to do anything. I just want to exist. My family put their arms around me, gave me plenty of love. They didn't try and tell me, everything's going to be okay. They recognized that I was acknowledging that I was in a place that I'd never been in before. And I'll tell you, I thought I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. My hands were shaking and a whole host of other kinds of things. I knew something wasn't right. I had a safe place where I could actually say that. And what I would share with you is you as business owners, me as a business owner, I have to create that kind of space for my employees. And I have to be able to hear when I might be in that situation when my employees aren't necessarily telling me. So if that means that I have to call them individually and check in with them, that means that, if I've got to call them all as a group and check in with them, in some cases without overstepping boundaries of if I got great relationships with spouses, hey, I may just want to check in and just see how folks are doing and make it a safe place for folks to talk.
Well, that's a great answer, and I really appreciate you opening up and sharing with everybody. And it should make us all feel better to know that it's not just us, that we're all facing these challenges, and it's by working together and using the resources that we have to help us through it. So thank you again, Randall. This has been a wonderful conversation. I greatly appreciate it, and I thank you all for listening and for hanging in past all the technical difficulties. Again, this is presented by the Diversity Consortium, who is again a consortium of about 25 companies with a whole lot of experience, as you can see there. And now, as you just heard Randall say, we've just announced that we have actually $2 billion in cash reserves that we are working towards applying towards our XBE population. So we're super excited about that. The Diversity Consortium offers a whole bunch of service lines, both to the corporations, you see what we consider upmarket, and to the XBEs on the right-hand side. Our next Thrive is on February 24th at 3 p.m. We're going to talk about the power of alignment and business alliances. Excited for that. So please mark your calendars. Feel free to register on our website. We also have the XBE micro topics, and this is where we do a little bit of a deeper dive. So today was a Thrive where we talk about some broad subjects. But if you're interested in learning more about the healthcare the health plan, the employee health plans, or you're interested in hearing more about certification or sales marketing, or those the financial support that we're offering, or even those support services, please feel free to check out our micro topics. All of them are on our website, and you can register for them, and you'll get a little pop-up on your calendar and reminder, and you'll also get the video recording. So it's a great thing. Thank you again. Thank you, Randall, and hope you all have a great afternoon. Bye for now.